So I guess we can get started. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're joining in, folks. My name is Prithviraj. I am the Litmus community lead, and I feel glad to welcome you all to another edition of the Litmus Chaos-Community Sync-up call for July. And we have a couple of things already in agenda, and I think a few stories here and there to discuss, and we'll be taking up the Q&A later on. So without any further ado, I would like to share my screen to share the agenda items for today, and then perhaps we can move on and discuss what's next today. So just give me a second. So I hope my screen is visible, and as you can see, we'll be just introducing new members on the call, whoever has joined us for the first time, and then there's a user story presented by one of our community members, Crystal Lam. She's been part of the community for some time now, and she'll be just talking about how they have been using Litmus, or how she's been using Litmus and what's the experience been. And then we have Akash, who will be taking us through the release notes for the latest release, that is 2.11. And then we'll have a quick demo on the HTTP chaos experiments that have come up. I think I'm personally excited for what is there to be presented for the latest chaos experiments. That's the HTTP chaos. And then in the end, we'll open the floor for some question and answers. And there's one agenda item I forgot to add, or was added at the last minute. We also have with us one other community member, that's Jonathan Barossa. He's been using Litmus for some time now as well, and we'll just give him some time to talk about how his experience with Litmus has been. So without any further ado, perhaps I would allow our new participants to just introduce themselves. I see a couple of new folks joining in. There's Vince Wang. There's Josh. I think I forgot the name. Yeah, there's Vince Wang. Perhaps Vince, you can just unmute yourself and introduce to the community.
Yeah, hi everyone. Vince Wang. I am actually from K6, part of the load testing solution, and had some previous experience in chaos engineering, and got in touch with the chaos with the Litmus folks, and decided it'd be cool to hang out with everyone.
Well, welcome once again, Vince. It's good to have you here, and we're hopeful that we see you in the upcoming calls and perhaps see you present as well. So sure. moving on, let's not waste time and allow Crystal to perhaps share her screen or take up the floor and just share with us how the experience with Litmus has been, how she's been using Litmus, and what's the update from her side. So Crystal,
Sure.
the floor is all yours.
I don't quite have a demo per se, but I guess I can just talk about my experience with LitmusChaos. So we've been, just an intro. I'm Crystal. I'm a lead software engineer at a media company, and I'm currently the SME in my business unit in regards to chaos engineering. And we have been researching how to make our application deployment platform more resilient and fault tolerant. So we looked into a few projects. We looked into LitmusChaos as well as Chaos Mesh, and we saw that LitmusChaos was definitely more straightforward and easier to use, as well as the documentation was a little more verbose. So currently we have chaos tests running in our integration and staging environments in 2 regions in staging. And it's been successful. We've been able to help application teams figure out some faults as well, like memory leaks, or if, say, our pods are hogging up some memory. So that has been successful. And additionally, I have created a bash script, well, Ansible script in order to automate the creation of workflows, because manually creating, say, 100 tests is a little too tedious. So that has been successful as well. And what I found really beneficial was, since LitmusChaos is quite new in a sense, there were certain things like the Helm chart where I could contribute back to the community and add a few things to the templates, and that was able to be pushed out, and I could deploy that version quite quickly, actually. So that was really helpful and beneficial. So yeah, I mean, we've had this running for a few months now, and we really have seen benefits in our business unit, and we're hoping to evangelize this across other business units in our company. But, you know, of course, that needs to be talked with upper management. But yeah, so far, that's my experience. I have enjoyed it really well, and the community has been really quick and responsive. So that has also been very helpful.
Thank you so much once again, Crystal, for all the valuable feedback and contributions to the Litmus Chaos community. We hope that the usage continues, and we can see you in upcoming community calls as well, presenting more, or perhaps a demo sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when this POC and project in our company gets more mature, and we, you know, have chaos tests across maybe even production when we get to that stage. But yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Crystal. If we have any questions for Crystal, perhaps you can post them in chat. And moving on, I think we have Jonathan with us. Jonathan, perhaps you can just unmute yourself and share some updates with us.
Yes, my name is Jonathan. Hi everyone. I'm from Brazil. I'm leading the deployment of the chaos engineering in the company I'm working. Like we did some POCs with other tools, but we choose Litmus in June. And then since then we decided to just deploy the Litmus in UAT, like this first phase of this, just to start this movement of using chaos engineering tool, and I don't know, teach everyone about how it's work and things like that. Can I share my screen? Just a roadmap to show you guys.
Absolutely, Jonathan. You can share your screen.
Let me see this. Okay, can you see?
Yes, Jonathan. We can see your screen.
It's just a small roadmap that we created, making Litmus available in UAT. Here in this company I'm working, they have some limitations, some security concerns about other tools and third-party tools. So there are, like, I will not use Litmus as the default, pretty like in what is described in the documentation. For example, I can't use kubectl because I don't have access to kubectl. We use Argo CD, so I need to create a I pull the chart in the Helm, right? Like Helm pull the Litmus, and then I get the targz and put in the Argo CD, and then deploy the Litmus there. The first thing is we need to move the MongoDB outside of the cluster. So we don't using the a pod containing the MongoDB. We have a cluster in Atlas, so it's deployed there and it's working. But I had to make some changes in the deployment, so I could not use the targz chart file. I had to decompress the package and then made some changes. I'm documenting this, and I think in the near future I will share with you guys what the changes I had made, and and maybe in order to improve this deployment. So we moved MongoDB outside. I requested the Litmus URL. It's a must-have use SSO. So we configured SSO here. It worked with Dex, and also it worked with Microsoft provider. It's a case that I think it's not described in documentation, right? You guys described that it works with Google and GitHub, but Microsoft provided it's working pretty well. But I discovered a bug. Then I realized that this is already an issue described in the Litmus GitHub. That means that this, like in short, is if you log in using SSO, your username is your email. When you run an experiment, Litmus put a tag in the resources with like executed by your email. That's your username. So Kubernetes doesn't like this because it's only the @ character is not allowed in the Kubernetes. So it's a kind of block for us because, okay, SSO is working, but we cannot run experiments. So I'm talking with the manager and the directors in order to disable SSO for now, in order to continue the roadmap and then go back to this issue in the future, right? I don't know, 2.13 is a version that will be available. And another thing that is important for us is database automated agent deployment. Like we are using an external agent, and I got the charts from the Litmus, and it's already a template that I can deploy in Argo CD. It's working. We need to create internal chaos hub. This is pretty easy, and that I'm working right now. We need to monitor Litmus deployment, like if the service is okay. And the last one, I think it is the most important. Next month we work is define the process about the chaos engineering here, like who can execute the experiments, or all the process. So I think this is I will need some help. I would like to hear from you, like next month, cases that how Litmus is being deployed, how Litmus is being used in the context, different contexts. I think it's important to understand and decide and define a good process. Last month I watched the meetup, right, with the Accenture people there, and I thought that was pretty interesting because they talk a little bit how they create this process, and like how they feed the chaos designed experiment, how the experiments are being constructed. And I think I'm in the middle of the work, but for now it's going well, and I like the community is very good, because when I ask something in the Slack, you are always ready to answer the question. So that's it for me.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan. I think the roadmap was pretty interesting, and I think this kind of a roadmap will help a lot of users or folks to actually jot down their roadmaps as well. And hopefully you continue to use Litmus, and perhaps in the upcoming calls we can know more from your end on how you've been using Litmus. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So before we move to Akash with the release note updates and the demo, I think a couple of folks joined us. So we won't waste any time. Perhaps just urging you to introduce yourself to the community. We have Wal. Wal, perhaps you can just introduce yourself. Okay, I can see. Maybe we can have that later on. We have Ramki. Ramki, perhaps you can just quickly introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Hey guys, my name is Ramki. I'm a SRE manager here at Delta Inc., Delta Airways, Atlanta, Georgia. We are trying to bring in Litmus Chaos into our organization for chaos engineering. We are new to this tool. We are experimenting on it. Probably I would say my knowledge on this is about 2 weeks old. That's it. So I'm learning from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramki, for joining in. I hope you're already part of the Slack community. Just in case you haven't joined in, I would love to share the links for you to join the Slack, and we hope to see you more in our upcoming calls and hope to see more stories on chaos engineering coming forward from Delta. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Akash, I think you can take the floor right now and you can go ahead, share your screen and talk about the latest release and then move on to HTTP chaos. Thank you.
Thank you, Prithvi. So, okay, so we had Litmus 2.11.0 release this month. So I'll quickly go through the release notes. So first of all, let's talk about the core component updates that we have here. So we have, first of all, 4 new HTTP chaos based experiments. So in the last release, we started off with for HTTP latency experiment, which laid out the base for further experiment that were to be added. This month, for this lead, we have added the status code, modify body, modify header, and the reset peer experiment for HTTP. So I'll be talking about all of these in the next segment, where I'll be them and also showing you what the experiments can do and what they are about, right? After that, we have updated the operator SDK version to 1.14.0. So this has also helped us to upgrade the Kubernetes version that was being used to 1.21. So, and also as well with the chaos operator SDK version, we have refactored the code for the Litmus components as well to work with the new operator SDK versions updates. Other than that, we have added support for non-default VPCs in the AWS ELB AZ down experiment, which is available in the Litmus Python. The source code is in the Litmus Python repository. So earlier, only the default VPC ELB can be targeted, but now with this change, the users can also target ELBs that are not associated with the default VPC present. Right. Moving on, we have also updated the enhanced the CMD probe spec. So now it can support new arguments like image pull policy, command and arguments when the user is running in the source mode. This will give better control to the user when they're using the CMD probe. Other than that, we have also fixed an issue in the error handling segment for the application status check whenever a annotation was provided for any of the pod level experiments. With that, we also added a Docker image for Litmus CTL. So this will allow the users to install the agents from a pod container. So now moving on to the Chaos Center updates. This involves new terminologies that Litmus will be using from now on. So agents will now be called chaos delegates, and workflow will now be called chaos scenarios, and charts will now be renamed to chaos experiments. So this is to suit and to explain better the how these these things are working. So this terminologies will be used from any the next releases that we'll be having. So you will be able to see these naming convention change come in this release as well as in the upcoming releases all throughout the Litmus Chaos Center. Moving on to, we have also reduced the permissions in namespace mode for execution plane components. So now we have made whatever the required permissions were there, we have tried to reduce to them only. Also, we have fixed an issue in the Sync-up API so that whenever there was an error in communication between the graphical server and the MongoDB, the hubs were getting deleted while trying to reclone the current chaos hub. So that issue has been fixed with this release. Hopefully we'll be seeing that. And with these naming convention changes, there is also going to be a change in the structure of the chaos hub directory. So now the charts directory will be called experiments, and the workflow directory will be renamed to scenarios. So currently in the current release, we are deprecating the current structure for charts and workflow directories and renaming them to experiments and scenarios. So with the subsequent release 2.12.0, you will not be seeing the charts and workflow directory, but only the experiments scenario directory. So all the users are advised to update their chaos hub directory with the new structure, so that when with the new releases, they don't have any kind of any issue with it. So this is all for the update release notes for this month's release, that is Litmus 2.11.1. Okay, great. Let's move ahead to the pod HTTP chaos experiment for this release. So as I talked about, we have added 4 new experiments. So I'll just go through the documentation to tell you what these experiments are capable of doing, and then we'll be seeing a short demo of it as well, right? So initially, like the pod HTTP reset pair experiment will basically simulate a situation where there is a connection reset performed by the service. So basically a service failure, HTTP request failure, we can simulate using the pod HTTP reset pair experiment. So this experiment has the target service port environment variable, which is basically the service, which is basically the port on the port of the service you are trying to target, and the reset timeout environment variable, which defines the reset timeout value. Reset timeout value after which the request will be timeout. So if you provide a 5-second value, then after 5 seconds, the request that is there should be request that is coming will be timeout. That means the connection will be closed. Right. So this is for the reset pair experiment. For the status code experiment, so this experiment will be able to emulate a scenario where we can change the response code of the HTTP request. So supposedly, if I want to change the response code to 404 or 400, I'll be able to do with this experiment. So it has the target service port as usual. It has 2 environment codes to handle it. One is the status code environment variable, which so whatever value you provide to the status code environment variable, the response code will be modified to that specific status to that specific code. So currently, this is the list of the supported status code that we are supporting to modify. If you provide any other value than this, the experiment will fail because it is not supported. And as well as you can have a random status code response as well. So if you do not provide any value in this status code environment variable, it will basically select a random from these, barring the 200 status code. It will select a random from these values and modify the response accordingly. Other than that, we have one more environment variable, which is the modify response body variable. So so basically, like whenever we update the status code, the user has an option to either modify the response body, that is to change the response body according to the status code. So if you provide a true value to this, it will basically use a template that we have provided based on the status code and reply with that template value for the body. If you provide false in this, then only the status code will be changed. There will be no effect on the body of the response. So the response body will remain as it is, but the status code will be changed. So this was for the status code. Let's move to the modify body. So this modify body we can use to override the body of the response. So currently the support is only for overwriting the body. So whatever value we provide will be overwritten. It does not support, the current support is not for making any specific changes in the body by using any filtering or rejects mechanism. So it has Can I provide a list of status code, for example? Yeah, so this is not available in this release, like providing a list of status code, but I will be trying to get this up in the next release probably, to have support for multiple lists and then choose a random value from that provided list. Okay, so continuing with the response body. Yeah, so this has a response body environment variable. So whatever value you provide in the response body variable, environment variable, that the response body of the request HTTP response will be overwritten with that value, right? So you can provide any HTML body or any JSON body as well. So whatever body you will provide, that it will override that specific body with it. One more thing, like if you want to provide any put double or single quotes inside the response body string, then you should use an escaped character. Try to escape that character so that the experiment doesn't fail and it doesn't throw out an error. Okay, so moving on to the next, which is a modify header experiment. So this experiment will basically let you modify the header of both the request and the response headers, and you have an option to modify it. Basically, you can add any headers you like, or modify the already present headers, or probably also you have an option to delete the headers. So it has the headers. It has two environment variables to control this. One is the headers map environment variable. So you have to provide your headers in this fashion, in basically like a key value pair. So if you want to modify an header, you need to provide the key for that header and any value you new value you wanted. So if you provide any new value, that header will be modified with the whatever value provided. If you want to add any new header, you can provide a new value here and a new key here for the header and the new value. If you want to delete an header, what you can do is you can provide the value for the key for the header here, and you can basically provide an empty value here. So this will basically emulate a situation where the header is does not have a value. So an option to delete the header completely, like it is not in the header list, is not supported right now, but you can use an empty value to emulate a similar kind of situation as well. Another environment variable is the header mode. So as I told, we can use it for both this request and response headers. So if you provide the response in the value for environment for this environment variable, it will modify the headers for the HTTP response. And if you provide it for the request, if you provide the value of request, it will basically do it for the HTTP request, right? One more thing, as we talked about it in the last sync-up as well. So currently the HTTP latency, HTTP chaos experiments are supported only for incoming request on the service you are targeting. So you can currently it is not supported to do it on outgoing requests. So supposedly, like if I have a service A running and I want to target any incoming HTTP request to that service, I can use for HTTP chaos right now. But if you try to, if you plan to use it on the service B and you can only target the service A, so you cannot use it to hamper the HTTP connection between service A and service B by targeting service. So only for incoming requests it is supported right now. Okay. Yeah. So I think if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat right now. I'll try to answer them now. Meanwhile, I'll start with the demo for the experiment. So before that, I'll tell you what I'm going to demo it on. So I have a very simple Nginx deployment running here, and I've created a service for it, which is accessible. So if I try to access the service here, I get a 200 response code with this basic Nginx page, and these are the headers that are provided here, right? So what I will do right now is I'll run the new 4 experiments, all of them in a go, and I'll show you how they are working on this specific scenario, right? So let's start with the reset peer one. Right, so I'll just go and set it up. So the target service port is 80 because my service is running on port 80 here. And I will provide the value for timeout to be 0. So it will basically timeout in just when the request reaches it. Okay. So this is the first experiment we'll be running, and we'll run the status code after it. Just let me put the value as 30 seconds will be done for a long time. Yeah. So for the status code as well, so I'll provide a status code 404, and I'll set the body modify response body as 2, so it will modify the response body as well. State, I'll also add the modify body experiment here. So I'll just provide an basic HTML thing here that we can use. So it will just be printing this here. Yeah. So this is the
Akash,
body.
the tag is the tag you put age 1 tag. If you edit the tag there, you will see that it's not correct. Page 1.
Akash, the closing tag in key value.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Jonathan,
For pointing this out. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So with the modify header as well. So yeah. So in the header map, what I'll do is I'll add a new header called Litmus, and I provide the value as the parent version. Right. And I'm adding it in response mode, right? Because so for the request, because I'll be able to see it here that it getting added. You can run it for request mode as well. So to demo it, I will have to run a server and show it to that it's coming as the request header. So for the sake of simplicity, we'll run it here only, in response mode only. Okay, so it will run and add this header in this. Let's change it to 30 seconds. Okay, so we have 4 experiments which will be running sequentially. First is HTTP reset, status code, modify body, and modify header. Right, so let's go ahead and run it. Yeah, so meanwhile they're starting, do we have any questions on these experiments or any queries you have regarding the experiment? And then we can see. So for the reset period, initially what I'll do is I'll try to call this IP address and see if I'm getting a response or it's getting sent. We have the experiment got started. We have the helper started. So I guess in a few seconds we might be able to see. So currently it's accessible. I think it should have started by now. Yeah, so I can see it's not accessible anymore, and it's simulating a connection reset, which is basically the what the experiment does. I think it will just run for a few more seconds. Okay, so we are done with the HTTP reset pair experiment. Now we'll move on to the HTTP status code experiment. So for status code, what I'll be doing, I'll use Postman to call this thing and see what status code and what body I'm getting. Not there. So it's completed. Now we'll be moving on to the next one. The next HTTP status code starting up now. You can see the logs here as well. So since I haven't added any probes to verify the connection, the experiment basically passed. But if I had probes to verify the HTTP, I could have used the HTTP probe to verify if the service is accessible or not, and then this would have failed. Okay, so we have the status code helper running here. So I think we will be able to see a 404 error coming up. Yeah. So now we have a 404 status code coming up. So this is a basic template that is there for each of the status code that we are supported. If I had provided the modify response body environment variable as false, then this body wouldn't be modified, wouldn't be overwritten. We will basically getting this body, but the status code would have changed to 404. So this was a status code experiment. Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Just for those in the audience, in the call who are looking at the experiments for the first time. So the Litmus chaos experiments have a pre and post chaos check. These are some kind of guardrails that help you to decide whether to go with the chaos or no. There is the pre-chaos check. Once the fault is complete, there is a sanity check done to let the service be healthy or check if the service is got back to running state. That is the post-chaos check. And these take up a few seconds before the experiment completes. Whether you would like to perform these checks or no is something that you can tune using a tunable. There is a app default health check value in the chaos engine that you can set to skip these if it's needed.
Okay, so the modify body is running now. So it has basically modified the body to what value I have provided. So this is what we are getting in the body now. Just nothing has changed. The status code headers have remained as it is, but the body has been overwritten. So whatever value you provide on the response body environment variable, it will be overwriting the complete body of the response that we're getting. So now the experiment is completed, so we are back to the origin body that we had. Okay, so now we are done with the 3 of the experiments, reset pair, status code, and modify body. We'll be doing the last of the experiment, modify header. So currently we have these headers here. The expectation is that once I run this modify header experiment, the litmus header should be added with the value of 2.11. That is the expectation from the modified experiment. One more thing from the previous HTTP sync-up update as well. So here it is started. So if the user does not have to change anything as regards to the link or the code that we are trying to access. So my service for that is accessible at the port 80, and once I run this, I still have to only access the port 80. I don't have to change anything, and basically, yeah. So we have the litmus header added and the value that I provided here. Right. If I have provided any of these headers, so if I provided content type and change the value to text/text or text/JSON, then this header would have updated accordingly. So you can modify any of the headers that are present here and probably add a new header as well. And if I provided the content type header with no value, with an empty string value, then this would have been removed from here. The header would still be here, but it wouldn't have any values in this regard. So yeah, I guess we are done with it. Once I resend it, we will not see the litmus class. So the experiment has reported as well. So yeah, so these are the 4 new HTTP QoS experiments available now. This adds on to the pod HTTP latency experiment that we reviewed in the last call as well. So now that the tally for HTTP experiment becomes a total of 5. Right. So that's it. We will be happy to see your use cases for these experiments, and if you have any doubts or queries, you can ask them on that. I guess we are done with the demo for these experiments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akash. I think that was a good demo, and thank you so much for explaining HTTP QoS to everyone. Perhaps I'll just open the floor for any questions related to Akash's demo or anything related to Litmus. Or if you want to share something about your progress or want to ask any questions related to chaos engineering or Litmus. Generally, I'll just open the floor for questions and then we can wrap up. So do we have any questions?
Question. If supporting basic auth for configuring data sources is on the roadmap at all, or but if that's going to be supported anytime soon?
So Crystal, when you say authentication for data sources, could you elaborate?
So when you're trying to configure the Prometheus data source in the Chaos Center in order to get the interleaved analytics and dashboards, right now it's no auth. I was wondering if basic auth would be supported anytime soon, or if it's on the roadmap.
Yeah, I think we could do it on need basis. It's a good requirement. You could probably create an issue. At this point, we've had a lot of users have their own Grafana instances or other observability sources. And one of the reasons why the analytics on the Litmus dashboard is a bit less used is because it uses a non-standard dashboarding scheme. So if that's something that you are already using and you would like to see extended support for, then that's definitely welcome. You could create an issue. We will be happy to add it to the roadmap.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, because I created an issue, but we do have our own Grafana dashboard right now, but I was just wondering if that is a possibility to get it on the roadmap, because I think that would be really helpful for us. But yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal, once again. Do we have any other questions? All right, folks, I see none. I think with this, we conclude today's Community Hours Community Sync-up call. And thank you so much once again for everyone for joining in and staying up. Feel free to ask your questions in the Litmus community Slack. And feel free to reach out to any one of us from the Litmus community if you need any help or have any questions regarding Litmus. So hopefully we see you again once again in the next community call. That's again on the 3rd Wednesday of August. Until then, happy chaos engineering and see you soon, folks. Thanks everyone for joining in.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.